What up, it's your boy Dragon, and this is part 3 of the Dracolich problem, and in this video I wanted to do what's called a raids refresh, where I go over raids content, and that is part of the problem because of the range tiers that I went over. I talked about Tempest and Active Tempest needing some changes, so that's why we might as well do a full refresh of raids content in general. So in this video I want to go over a couple things. The first is going to be the raid itself, and then after that I want to talk about the shop, some abilities, and of course the gear set and some changes that I've made to Tempest to make it a little bit more, I would say, modern and a better set. So I think the first change is obvious. You need to remove the raid lockout and just allow the content to be rinsable. You can keep the interface as it is, but you can just hit reset at any time to kill the boss. So you could use this to consistently reset Beastmaster and continue to do just Beastmaster, but the idea of the scaling that I put into place for the shop is based around doing the full raid. So when we get there I'll kind of explain that. So the second thing is essentially just need to balance the boss itself to make it more accessible. So I would scale it from 2 to 5 people, and you can have a max rate of 10. So the HP scaling would be based on number of players in the raid. Once you reach 5, anybody after that is just going to be extra helpful for DPS. So since the raid would be rinsable, you definitely need to change the shop. So obviously the current drop rates on things really isn't a problem as far as GP per kill compared to a lot of other bosses in the game. But I think the problem would be the specific resources that come in would devalue them. I wouldn't say heavily, but a little bit. So biggest change though would be to Techie. So I'm going to talk about what I would have changed on there, because to me this is kind of, I wouldn't say the biggest thing, but definitely plays a big factor in. So the way I've broken down that Techie is pretty simple. So for Beastmaster you're going to have 500 to 1000 Techie received every single kill, and then if you do Yakumaru it's 1k to 2k. This means the total average amount you're going to get per run is 2250. So the shop is based around 225k total Techie to obtain all 3 armor sets. So that means each set would be 75k worth of 75k worth of Techie to unlock a full tier 92 set. So the breakdown is pretty simple. Each set would be 75k total for a full set of tier 92. The body would be the most expensive at 25k, legs 20k, helm a nice cheap in my opinion, 15k, and then you've got both the boots and gloves at 7.5k each for a total of 15k. So this is 75k for a full tier 92 set. So this should be approximately 33 full raids to get a full tier 92 set. So when we are looking at the abilities themselves, Corruption Blast and Corruption Shot are going to be the most expensive at 22.5k, which is an average of 10 raids to unlock the untradeable version of the ability. The other two that are changed is Storm Shards and Shatters unlock, as well as Onslaught. These would only be 10k untradeable for Techie, and then we have the tradable Mazcav ability Codex at 45k total Techie. Now I want to talk about some ability changes. So the first ones are Corruption Shot and Corruption Blast. There's not going to be any change to the ability themselves. They're just going to stay as is because, let's be honest, they're pretty well balanced for what they are. So no changes there. So the abilities I want to talk about first are Storm Shards and of course Shatter. So Storm Shards is going to be a 3-second cooldown, so it's basically every other ability. The damage is going to be same as the Necromancy basic attack, so basically 100%, and it's just going to do damage. And it's not going to apply any ammo or spell effects, so it's going to add 1 stack per hit and can stack up to 10 stacks. So every Storm Charge is going to count as a basic ability. Now the second part is the Shatter ability, which is going to consume those stacks. So for every stack you have, it's going to consume a stack and hit every 1.2 seconds. It's essentially going to do the same damage. It's just going to be damage every 1.2 seconds over 12 seconds. So each stack is going to hit. Each stack can critical hit, so it's going to be a little bit different. So you could get some extra RNG to kind of boost the damage, but that's really all it's based around. So the idea behind it is it's going to give you damage over time, and then Shatter no longer drains Adren, so it's going to be a pretty powerful threshold that you can use without actually losing any of your burst damage. So you're going to be able to have 100% and use this without having to worry. So you could use this, pop a Sunshine or an Ultimate, a Zerk, whatever the case is, and then continue to do damage. Now, Onslaught is going to be another ability that's going to be for lower level players. The idea behind it is you can use this instead of having Sunshine or the Ultimates, so that's why the cost is only 10k techie, as well as it's a little bit cheaper, but I think Onslaught could be used to make it a little bit better. So it's going to be a 2-minute cooldown as well. It's going to be a channeled ability. The way it works now, you can't move, you can't do anything, you have to stay on your spot, but this one is not going to be able to critical strike. However, if they add kind of the equilibrium or the increased flat damage increase where your abilities can no longer crit, if they make that change, this is going to be a much stronger ability for that in particular. So the damage is going to hit 10 times over 7.2 seconds, and it's going to start on the third tick, but essentially it's going to hit tick 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So it's going to hit every tick, and each hit it's going to do 50% ability damage on average, so I just put the range as like 40 to 60, 10% on both sides of the number that I'm talking about here, and then it is going to increase damage every hit. So this is going to be kind of ramping up, and then by the 10th hit you'll be doing a lot of damage. Now the downside is it channels over 7.2 seconds, and it drains all 100% of your adrenaline. So you have to have 100% adrenaline to use this ability, and if you cancel it anyway through, it's just going to stop on whatever hit it was. So if you do half the hits, it's going to cancel, and your ability will just leave whatever percentage adrenaline is left. So now of course we're going to talk about the tier 92 and tier 95 gear. So these are the Tempest sets. So the first thing I want to say is definitely we need to remove the current Acto effect, and I would say apply that to every defensive gear. So I'm going to talk about that in part 4, and that's the main reason I wanted to extend it for that part. I want to talk about the tank armor in the next video, and this is the main reason because we're talking about kind of conforming and making it all the same. So I'll talk about that, but yeah, essentially you're just taking the effect off and applying it to all tank gear in the game. So the new actual set effect of the gear is going to be as follows. So if you're wearing one piece, per piece worn, 5% or 7% increased reflect damage. That means your tier 92 regular Tempest set would have 5% reflect damage per piece worn, and your Acto set would have 7% increased reflect damage per piece worn. Once you add a second piece, after using the reflect ability, you're going to gain 1% or 1.5% adrenaline per hit from your primary target. This means if you're fighting something and it hits you, if you're wearing a full 5 pieces, you would gain 5% adrenaline back, or 7.5% if you're using Acto. The reason for this is it's going to make reflect better. So when you're getting 5%, that essentially means 3 hits from your primary target while reflect is up, and you're going to get your 15% adrenaline back. Or if you're using Acto, you only need 2 hits from your primary target to kind of make a reflect more like a lossless ability. So it's incentivizing having the full set worn, as well as on top of that, the main point is really just to make sure that it has value as a gear set itself rather than just individual pieces. Now the next effect is when you're wearing 3 or 4 pieces. So if you have 3, you're going to extend reflect ability duration by 1 tick or 0.6 seconds per piece worn. So it's normally a 9.6 second ability. So if you're wearing all 5 pieces, it would go all the way up to 3 seconds more, which is 12.6 seconds. And then of course the cooldown is also going to be reduced by 3 seconds if you're wearing a full 5 set, which is 0.6 seconds. Now the key here is the 5th piece set effect. So it's going to be for Acto only, and it's going to be enchantment, which is the Death Touch bracelet effect. So if you look at the recipe, which I'm going to put on screen, essentially you use this recipe to make the enchantment, and then with that enchantment you're going to be obviously boosted because you're going to get the Death Touch Brace reflect effect back on your full set. So that means you can wear the full set without having to sub out a piece for the bracelet. So the biggest thing here is when you're making the recipe, it requires 12 slivers of power, pain, or strength, and then a Mazcab ability codex along with a Death Touch bracelet. So when you combine all these things, it takes some of the raid's resources, it takes Zami resources, and adds some more to the Soul Reaper with the Death Touch bracelet being on the recipe. One other thing to mention, I think this is, I want to be honest, the most important part I would say is really that you need to make sure that the idea behind it is that you can mix and match Tempest and Acto Tempest pieces as you get them as drops. That is why you can complete a full set after 33 pieces, and that again is to incentivize it, so that way it makes sense to kind of like unlock a full set and then keep grinding out the drops to kind of increase those set pieces effect. So essentially you can combine them. The only one that wouldn't be combinable is obviously the Acto effect that you get for the enchantment. So with the 5-piece set on, you would get that as long as it's all Acto. If you change any of the pieces, you do not get that. So the main reason for this is to kind of compensate for the Death Touch brace being a 5th slot, so you could wear 4 pieces plus a Death Touch brace, but obviously if you do that, you're not going to have as strong an effect, and that's kind of the reason that I added the effect as the 5-piece set to kind of balance it out, so that way it would make more sense to do that than wear 4 pieces plus the bracelet itself without unlocking the enchantment. So this covers the raids refresh. Hopefully you like the idea. If you do, like the video and follow along, because I'm going to have part 4 out. It took me a while to get these parts out because I was sick for essentially a whole month out of the last like 40 days. It's been crazy. So finally feeling better, finally getting it out. So hopefully I can get the next video out shortly. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one.